Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're breaking down the hidden rules of money that, frankly, school never taught us. Picture this. You are working incredibly hard, putting in the hours, but somehow it feels like you're just running on a treadmill, right? Like, what is actually happening behind the scenes? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unpack the basic financial concepts that literally separate those who constantly struggle with money from those who build real, lasting wealth. And spoiler alert, the true secret weapon, the absolute core of building that wealth, is mastering compound interest.
Okay, let's dive into this. Let's start with a scenario we are all incredibly familiar with. You work hard all month, you finally get your paycheck, but when you look at that pay stub, a massive chunk of your hard-earned money is already gone to deductions before it even hits your bank account. It's incredibly frustrating. You earn one amount, but you actually take home something vastly different. And then, to make matters worse, there's the harsh reality of actually spending what's left. Maybe you've noticed this yourself recently. The exact same cart of groceries that cost you $50 just last year is now ringing up at $65 today. So your paycheck shrinks before you even get it, and then the money you do have buys less than it used to. To understand why this happens, we really have to look at the systems controlling our money. That brings us to our first major hurdle in understanding wealth. Section 1. The illusion of money and fractional reserve banking.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of fractional reserve banking. First off, money itself isn't inherently valuable. It's just a piece of paper or a digital number that relies entirely on a trust-based social construct. And when you put that money into a bank, you might imagine it's locked away in some giant, dragon-guarded vault. But that's not true at all. Under fractional reserve banking, banks keep only a tiny fraction of your deposit on hand. The rest, they immediately act as middlemen and lend it out to someone else to buy a house or a car.
So the bank makes a massive profit by charging those borrowers a much higher interest rate than the tiny amount they pay you for keeping your money in a savings account. Your money is never just sitting there. It is always working. The problem is, right now, it's working for the bank, not for you.
And while the bank is putting your money to work for their benefit, there's a second force actively working against your wealth. Section 2. Inflation, the silent wealth thief.
This is famously known as the silent thief. Inflation is the gradual erosion of your money's purchasing power over time. Think about a $20 bill in your wallet right now. It's still technically $20. The number on the paper hasn't changed, but because of this silent thief, that same bill simply buys fewer groceries or less gas than it did just 5 years ago.
So why does this happen? Well, the causes can range from high consumer demand outpacing what's actually available to global supply chain issues. And sometimes it's simply because the government has printed too much money. Because of these factors, if your money is just sitting in a standard savings account, it isn't safe. It is quietly getting eaten alive every single day. To put that into perspective, a little bit of inflation, around 2% annually, is actually considered totally normal to keep the economy moving. But that normal 2% means the cost of living is constantly rising. The major takeaway here? You absolutely cannot simply save your way to wealth. Saving is losing. You must fight back.
How do you fight back? That introduces the absolute hero of our explainer today and the ultimate antidote to inflation. Section 3, the eighth wonder, compound interest.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate solution, compound interest. To really understand it, we have to contrast it with simple interest. Simple interest is basic. It's just a flat fee for borrowing or saving money. But compound interest? Oh, that is when your interest earns its own interest. It's often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world because of its absolute exponential powerhouse of growth. Let's walk through exactly how this math creates massive wealth over time. In step 1, let's say you invest $100 and it earns a 7% return in a year, bringing your total to $107. Simple enough, right? But in step 2, the magic happens. The following year, you earn that 7%, not just on your original $100, but on the new $107. Your gains are literally making gains. Over a 20 to 30-year period, this creates an unstoppable snowball effect of exponential growth. Which leads us to a crucial rule of thumb and a great metaphor. You need to view this mathematical force like this. Make compound interest your unpaid employee, not your worst enemy. You want this exponential growth working around the clock, 24/7, purely to build your wealth, without you having to lift a single finger. But remember how I just mentioned compound interest could be your worst enemy? Let's pivot to the complication in our story. Section 4, the compound interest trap and credit scores.
So the crucial point is that this exact same mathematical force works in reverse too. If you carry a balance on a high-interest credit card, that compounding math is now working against you. Your debt starts earning its own debt. This is exactly how a very small, seemingly harmless purchase can spiral completely out of control into a massive financial trap that takes years to escape. And speaking of debt, we have to talk about the system that governs your ability to borrow, your credit score. This is a 3-digit number that ranges from 300 to 850. A lot of people mistakenly think a high credit score means you are rich. It doesn't. It is simply a financial report card that measures exactly one thing: how trustworthy you are with borrowed money.
So what actually goes into that 3-digit number? There are 5 key factors. You have your payment history. Do you pay on time? Then there's credit utilization, which means how much of your available limit you're using. You generally want to keep this under 30%. The last 3 are the length of your credit history, your credit mix, like loans versus cards, and any new credit applications. The source material uses a really great analogy here. Treat your credit score like a pet. Ignore it, and it absolutely ruins your chances of getting a good mortgage. Take care of it, and it opens doors.
Once you've avoided that debt trap and protected your credit, we reach the climax of wealth building. Section 5, Making Your Money Work, Investing Basics. Let's move to and see how this builds real wealth in the real world. You don't need to be some Wall Street expert to safely harness this. Everyday people build wealth through 3 main vehicles: stocks, which are just tiny slices of ownership in a company; bonds, where you loan money to governments or companies in exchange for steady interest; and index funds, which are essentially bundles of hundreds of stocks that give you instant diversification, so you never have to worry about picking individual winners. By utilizing these vehicles, you achieve a massive mental shift. You stop trading your time for money, and you start making your money work for you. Wealthy people rarely get rich by winning the lottery or getting some massive windfall. No way. They get rich by putting their money into these vehicles and letting compound growth do its thing in the background. But there is one final, absolutely indispensable ingredient needed for any of those investment vehicles and for compound interest itself to actually succeed. Section 6, Time, the ultimate asset. That indispensable ingredient is time. Consider the stark contrast between the average earner and the top earner. Most people trade their hours directly for a paycheck. 1 hour worked equals exactly 1 hour paid. If you stop working, the money stops. But top earners, they understand leverage. They use their time to build skills, create systems, and fund investments. Because of this leverage, they get paid long after the actual physical work is done. Because compound interest requires time to really snowball, you have to realize that true wealth isn't built in days or even months. It is built in decades. There's an old saying that captures this perfectly. The best time to start investing was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. The urgency here isn't to get rich quick. The urgency is to simply start the clock on your compounding growth right now. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the illusion of the banking system and the silent theft of inflation to the undeniable power of compound interest and investing. Money doesn't have to be endlessly complicated, but it does require you to learn the rules of the game so you can finally make it work for you. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Which of these financial concepts surprised you the most? Take that newfound knowledge, start making your money work for you, and take control of your financial future. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep learning.